Hello my ghouls and ghoulies, and welcome back once again to the channel. My name is Dorian Blackleg, your humble master of ceremonies, and today we are continuing the story of our valiant knight. Now I'll have to be straightforward here, as I tried to do this video a couple of times, and I tried every option on chapter 6, but every option ended up being with me dead. Now, I assume that probably there is a certain requirement of stats to continue forth. Because when I tried the magic on chapter 4, that worked. When I tried the magic on chapter 6, the assassin got weakened, but she regained her strength and ended up killing the Sultan. So I'm thinking that perhaps my magic was not strong enough. So after a lot of trial and error, trying different options in my investigation, I've ended up being less charming than I was before, with more magic and a lot more intelligence. So I'm hoping that this time perhaps my magic will be strong enough to stop the assassin. So without further ado, after all this explanation, let's continue. Chapter 6. Sultan Mehmed II is just sitting down in the water of the palace grand bath when one of the maidens attending him loops a length of silver cord around his throat. I'll try once again the curse of the assassin, to curse the assassin with weakness, and perhaps I have enough magic now that it will work. Wasting no time, you quickly focus on the would-be assassin and recite the curse of Jabash Khan. The assassin's arms fall slack, the curse saping her strength away as she struggles to pull the cord taut. Spotting his opening, the Sultan rips the cord out of her hands, flips her underwater, and slices her throat open. A few minutes pass as the bath turns crimson with her blood before the Sultan reaches back underwater and pulls her head out. So as I was thinking, unfortunately there is a kind of soft lock. You need to have a certain amount of points to continue. This is not to say that magic is the only way. I'm sure that if you are playing, for example, as the explorer and you are very agile, you could have thrown your knife at her and kill her that way. I'm guessing. But for me now, magic tends to be the best option. What is the meaning of all this? The Sultan mutters, inspecting the head. You lean over and spin it around to show a tattoo on the back of her neck. They call her Ismeju. It means dragon in Romanian. The Sultan's face turns from red to white as he sees the symbol of the many-headed dragon on her neck. He then fishes the assassin's cord out of the water to find a silver dragon cross dangling from the end of it. The Order of the Dragon. Yes, Your Majesty, you reply. They are the force behind the bloodshed in Istanbul. I have learned through my investigation that they have been waging a bloody inquisition across your city, torturing and killing anyone they perceive to be evil, and in doing so, they have descended into a darkness greater than that which they sought to purge. The Sultan looks up at you. The Order of the Dragon does not move without the command of their secret master. You nod, placing the severed head into a silver plate. And whoever that master is, would have the weight of all of this bloodshed on his hands. The Sultan gazes up at you. Indeed, becoming the greatest of all monsters I know, Sorry, I'll restart. Indeed, becoming the greatest of all monsters, I know the name of the man, for I have faced him before. He is Vlad, Dracul, Prince of Wallachia, known as the Impaler, you reply, finishing the Sultan's sentence. You know of him? You nod, sadly. He is the one who asked me to come here, searching for a great evil, the same as his knights. The Sultan's Janissary guards finally swarmed the room. A dozen spears are pointed in your direction. Hold! Shouts Sultan Mehmet. This is a hero. More than that, a hero with one last task to complete. The Sultan turns back to you. For, unless I miss my guess, you are the type of person who finishes what they begin. It's with a heavy head that you nod, because he's right. And now we can choose a weapon. Blade of the Justicar, +2 strength, +1 constitution. The Stalacite, +1 strength, +2 magic. Or the Scimitar of Eternal Flame, +1 constitution, +2 dex, and +1 magic. I don't know, the Blade of the Justicar seems kind of cool. The problem is that it looks like magic is the way to go. So I'm not sure if this is offered to everybody. I think I'll go with the Stalacite. The Sultan leaves the room for a moment, stepping into the shadow. He returns carrying an item that he holds with great steam and presents it to you. You must have a powerful constitution to survive in this city, the Sultan states. Take this and allow its power to guide you. This frozen blade's chillingly glue blow betrays its inner power. The ice caverns within the aura bleed their frozen domain into the world around them. Journey to the castle. You leave behind a city still in the grip of darkness. Despite all you have done on its street and in its shadowy corners, there is only one way to truly save it. Your trek across Ottoman country is arduous. By day, bandits hound you, as if having specifically been given your name. At night, things crawl out of the shadows with teeth like knives, only to be kept at bay by the circles you draw upon the ground around you. It is harrowing, you sleep little, but as you climb through the mountainous forests of Transylvania, you, at last, find the road you once climbed as a friend. And even in the twisting twilight landscape, there are still a few flowers to be seen along the road. You pick the few that catch the last light of the waning sun. But as you round the final bend, Vlad's castle comes into view. You once stayed there as a welcome friend. Now it seems to stare at you in hunger, as if the very stones were luring you into the gaping mouth of the inner gate. I'm gonna make a little side note here. While I was doing all this trial and error that I mentioned in the beginning of the video, one of the encounters was in the square. I was wandering at night and I saw many bats flying that all joined and turned into one man. Now you had the choice of attacking or approaching the men. I approached the man and engaged in conversation with the vampire. And he gave me one advice. He said when the time came to use the sword or a flower, use the flower instead of the sword. So since now we have picked a flower, I'm wondering if this is connected to what the vampire told me. The portcullis crashes down behind you as you enter the dead walls. You know for a fact that there is now only one way you'll ever live, Castle Dracula, and death is not it. We are at the castle, and right now the only option that we have is the antechamber. The front gates at the castle swing wide, as if operated by phantoms. You know that to show any fear would be fatal, so you square your jaw, draw your weapon, step across the threshold. The main antechamber is dark, but just as your eyes are beginning to adjust, 100 candles flare to life, with a werewolf in it. Cobwebs crisscross the high ceiling, but you can still make out the mural painted there, a sweeping depiction of Vlad as a younger man, leading his force of Wallachian soldiers against the vast armies of the Sultan. You remember how much he looked like a savior in that painting when sunlight would fill the dome. But now, by flickering candlelight, he appears more like a horseman of the apocalypse. "Who goes there?" comes a voice from the balcony above you. You look up to find a rugged-looking man with a full beard and dark eyes staring down at you. "I've come to see Prince Vlad," you say. "I'm a friend, and I suspect he's been expecting me." The man's mouth twists into a smile. He has been expecting you. "To die!" The man then leaps over the railing, but when he hits the floor, it is on all fours in the shape of an enormous werewolf. With a frightening growl, he charges you. I feel like this is going to be one of those choices in which I either live or die. Now, I don't know if I'll be quick enough to dodge the werewolf, but somehow I think that might be the best choice. If he's charging at me full strength, perhaps I can use that to my advantage. Perhaps. We will see. Knowing full well that without silver you don't stand a chance against this beast. That's also true, I don't have silver. You decide on a different tactic. You run directly toward the charging werewolf, ready to swing. Then, just as it leaps into the air, you drop to the floor, sliding under it. The wolf sails over you, landing unharmed on the other side of the room. It spins to come back at you, but you have already regained your feet and running through the archway that leads deeper into the castle. As you run through, however, you drop a handful of the flowers that you picked on your way up the road. The werewolf slides to an enraged stop right in front of the flowers. He begins to bark madly. He cannot cross, because the flowers are wolfbane. Oh, so this is what the vampire meant about using the sword or the flower. But it is very guesswork at this point. I decided to evade the werewolf because I didn't think I could kill it. But good thing that we had those flowers. Now you are free to plunge deeper into the castle, while he will have to circle around by other routes to try and catch up to you. And by that time, you fully intend on finding something silver. You turn away from the pacing beast, descend into the lower halls. Now we got +1 magic and +1 agility. Now magic is our highest stat. We are turning into a wizard. The Black Chapel. As you enter the castle chapel, you are surprised to see just how greatly it has fallen into disrepair. It wasn't more than 10 years ago that you attended mass in this very place, yet it looks as though centuries have passed. The pews have split and warped. The altar has overgrown with lichen. The crucifix has been shattered. Dust and ash covers everything. Most disturbingly, however, is that the tombs of the other long-dead Draculs seem to have been recently opened. You cross the chapel, past the baptismal font where Vlad himself was baptized as a child. You wonder just how this great man could have fallen so far. That's when you realize there is a woman standing against the far wall. You hadn't noticed her when you entered, because her dress is grey, her face is covered with the same ash as the rest of the chapel. She stares at you with unblinking eyes. I think I'm going to speak to her. She's on the other side. Perhaps we can get closer by speaking to her. What are you doing down here? You ask. Her voice is little more than a whisper when she replies, I was married here. You take a step toward her. You're one of the Draculs, you say. She slowly shakes her head. No. Are you dead? You ask. She blinks for the first time. Single tears run down either side of her face, washing away ribbons of ash. Then she nods. You take a step closer. Did he kill you? She shakes her head. No. Are you one of his guardians? You ask. She closes her eyes. Then she slowly nods. Her voice is even quieter when she replies, But I have failed. How have you failed? You ask, mere feet away from her. Fresh tears run down her cheeks as she says, Because I was guarding his conscience. That stops you in your tracks. What happened to him? You ask. Her eyes slowly open as she looks at you from the deep shadows of her face. He sought to do good deeds. He intended for the Knights of the Dragon to help the innocent, to combat evil, but they have gone astray, persecuting everyone they come across. And the blood on their hands has twisted him, opened his heart to the influence of shadow and night, and he no longer listens to me. Only the howling of wolves and the mewing of his cold women. He is lost. Her eyes wander down to your weapon. Now, there is but one last thing which can affect his heart. She reaches a filthy finger to touch your weapon. There is a sudden flash of light blinding you. You step back, rubbing your eyes. When the effects of the flash finally subside, you are alone again in the chapel. You have achieved hidden power. Your weapon, however, now seems different, almost as if it were shinier, luminescent in the black chapel. You remember the werewolf. Press on, up the back staircase, climbing into the heights of the castle. No stats gain. At the top of the stairs, you find yourself in a long corridor leading toward a pair of heavy oak doors. You gather your courage and move forward, past the open rooms along the side of the passage. But then, one catches your notice. Against your better judgment, you look inside. It is a saloon-type parlor, as dark and dusty as everything else you've seen in the castle so far. But through the moth-eaten drapes along the far wall, you can make out a painting. On the canvas, a regal couple face each other, holding hands. The taller of the two figures is a young Vlad, dressed in an opulent and regal uniform, with a ruby-encrusted sword sheathed on his hip. Staring into his eyes is a beautiful Transylvanian woman in a royal dress of gold and blue. Your jaw drops. There can be no mistake. You just saw that woman in the chapel downstairs. Vlad's wife? He was married when he was younger? That's when you feel the slither of chilling fingers across the back of your neck. You spin around, raising your weapon, and yet you find no horrible monster, but three beautiful women in flowing gowns, otherworldly in the moonlight seeping in from the windows. I'm going to keep following how do you say it in English? The advice that the vampire had told me, and give them the flowers, though I'm thinking that these flowers might all be wolfbane. And if they are, I'm not sure if it's gonna work. Give them the flowers you pick up on your way up the mountain. As the smiling, shapely forms of the three women close in on you, you pull out the wild roses from your pocket. At the mere sight of the flowers, the three women leap back in terror, their faces twisting into frightening shapes, full of sharp teeth and piercing red eyes. "So," you say. The wild rose, that's what I thought it was them that were. I'll start again. "So," you say. "The wild rose does repel the restless dead." The three of them scream curses in Romanian, all of which you understand. "Who is that woman in the painting?" you demand. "Dracul's first wife," hisses the blonde one of the three. He's never been able to let go of her purity, her piety. "Is that why I saw her in the chapel?" you ask. The three glance at you in brief surprise before shielding their eyes from the mountain flowers again. One of the brunettes hisses. Even from beyond the veil of shadow, she tries to stay his hand, tries to draw him back to the light, insufferable even in death. You've heard all you care to hear from these sisters of darkness. Swing your weapon in a mighty arc, chopping all three of their heads from their shoulders. Blood fountains in wild arcs around the room as their bodies collapse to the floor. You drop a rose on each of their corpses, walk out, their heads still wobbling around in the hall outside. There's only one task left to perform. You turn your gaze toward the imposing doors at the end of the hall. I'm guessing that this is going to be the last of everything. So far it's been going really well, but I haven't seen any sight of the werewolf. Let's approach the throne room and perhaps we'll meet Vlad the fish. The fish. Covered in the blood of the vampire woman, you kick open the heavy doors and walk inside the audience hall of the castle. 3 long pikes with sharpened spear points stand in a row along the far wall. Behind them hangs a banner with the symbol of the Knights of the Order of the Dragon. Sitting at the desk in front of them is a man with long dark hair. He looks up from writing as you enter. You recognize the face all too clearly. It's him, Vlad Dracul, the Impaler. You should not have come here, my friend, he says, setting down his writing quill. You step forward, replying, you should not have sent me to Istanbul. In the darkness I was meant to find was actually you. If the darkness I was meant to find was actually you. Vlad stands up from his chair, looking every bit the man you remember from better days. He says, I had suspected that great evil was rising, but my knights, no matter how many heathens they killed, no matter how many witches they flayed, no matter how many wicked men Ismeju assassinated, they could not find the source of the evil. So, I sent you, the best investigator of the supernatural I have ever known, because I knew that if you ever came through those doors, it would confirm what I had grown to suspect, that I had become that great evil. He releases a heavy cape from his strong shoulders to fall to the ground, to the floor. And tonight, you have proven me right. You watch as Vlad's skin cracks and splits, breaking open and slogging off as if a serpent was shredding its outer layer. Grey flesh, muscular and terrible, emerges from beneath. Long black talons end at his fingertips, symbols of some dead language over his torso. His veil peels away to reveal demonic eyes and saber-like fangs, as bat-like ears extend out from the sides of his head, from his back. I'm gonna have to restart. His face peels away to reveal demonic eyes and saber-like fangs, as bat-like ears extend out from the sides of his head. From his back sprout 4 membranous wings, which flex for the first time. Look upon me, old friend, he says in a hellish voice, and know that you are my final test, the last burial before my great blood-hewn destiny. Paladin charge, hit the head. Decide, charm, or offend. I'm not sure. Magic so far has seemed to be the best thing. I'm not sure offending or charm. I like trying to talk my way through things if I can, but I'm not sure that we are gonna be able to do so. Especially since I'm not very charming. I have a lot of magic though. Perhaps the I'll try. But yeah, it doesn't say anything else about flowers. But I'll try. Is this what your wife would have wanted, you ask? The vampire goes strangely still, looking down at you with burning red eyes. You did not know Nadia, he says. You take a step forward. On the contrary, I met her ghost on the way here, saw the way you looked at her in that painting down the hall, and I saw the way she looked at you. This isn't the end she'd want for you. This... You gesture at his new demonic shape. This isn't the man she loved. This isn't the hero of Wallachia, the savior of Transylvania. She wouldn't recognize this creature of darkness, but she wouldn't give up on him either. You throw your weapon to the floor. You were a great man in life. Show her that you can be again. Call off your knights from Istanbul. Turn your back on this darkness and give her the peace her spirit needs to find her eternal rest. You can do that for Nadia. The vampire stares at you long and hard. At length, the strength goes out of his limbs. The wings fall down to nothing. His skin returns to the color of living flesh. His face becomes the face of the man you once knew. It is too late for me, he says. This darkness cannot be cast aside, but by my actions, I might yet be judged. He points at the desk. I have drafted a letter naming you the new head of the Order of the Dragon. Call them off from their inquisition, guide them to better works, and place me to rest in the chapel of my forefathers, in the coffin beside my beloved Nadia. Perhaps there, in eternal sleep, I may yet know her arms about me. You follow Vlad back down to the black chapel. You watch as he climbs into the stone sarcophagus built for him many decades ago. He looks up at you with one final glance and says, I chose you well. You nod in respect. As he closes his eyes, you raise a silver stake over his heart. With a powerful hammer blow, you drive it home, vampire blood spraying all around it. You then bring your weapons down in a clean cut, chopping his head from his shoulders. Then as the blood fills the coffin, you slide the stone lid shut, Then as blood fills the coffin, you slide the stone lid shut. Lay a final wild rose on top of his coffin. Thank you, comes a whisper from the back of the chapel. Although you do not see Nadia, you can feel her presence there with you. Depleted, you turn toward the stairs. It comes as something of a shock to find a werewolf, back in his human form, kneeling in the doorway. In his husky voice, he asks, What is thy command, master? So, Vlad, the end has come, but there is more left to discover. And that's the ending. Well, that was great. That was a great experience. You do have to do a bit of trial and error in the beginning, and I assume also here in the end, because it was much luck-based here in the end. But although the game is very short, and if you know what you are doing, you can finish it really quick. Because once you have done something and you already know the dialogue, you can get through the game really quickly. I found this game really good, and I look forward to doing more playthroughs. Don't think I'll do more playthroughs for the channel, but it's a really good game, and I wouldn't mind to play something else like this. But we'll see what's on the future for the channel. Anyways, I hope that you have enjoyed this playthrough, this video. If you have, you can like and subscribe and leave a comment with your thoughts and what you thought about the whole thing. So without further ado, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you on the next one.